just as I will tee up the next speaker, I think I mentioned earlier, the strength of our city is based on how engaged our citizens are. More people that care, that go above and beyond, that learn and work together, make for a stronger city. I've seen that time and time again. I'll speak to my own neighborhood that I moved into behind Nob Hill. The city laid off 20% of its workforce in 2007, 2008, 2009. A lot of that was prevention, whether it was in fire or public safety, certainly in the police department or community service officers. So the neighborhood bounded together. There was just a spike of petty crime. It started with bikes and break-ins of cars and just grew from there. And we have one of the safest beats in the city because that neighborhood is so organized. It's called the Los Olivos Riker Neighborhood Association. Some have heard of it. It's a model. And I would say in immediate response to a decrease in CSOs and prevention and city staff, furloughs and everything else, neighborhoods organized. And my observation between about 2009 and 2017 was we really grew the number of neighborhood organizations. Dave was part of that. Now we have a neighborhood department, if you will, within the city. There's funding, there's grants available for various improvement activities and prevention and training. Again, the heavy lift here for those that are willing to commit resources and willing to commit time is going to be more working together than just this visit today. And we'll get to that as we move on. As a city, we've committed tremendous resources to homelessness. And the way government works is there's the Congress, and there's the state legislature, and there's the county, and there's the city. The way government works, by statute, the county is charged with addressing social services and largely homelessness. And the city and other cities in the county have said, well, we can't do it, by just depending on the county. We've got to do it together. And so the city of Salinas has made homelessness and housing one of our top priorities. We've committed near $10 million in the last 6 years. Now, a lot of that's gone to cleanups, which don't necessarily solve the problem. It pushes the issue from one part of the city to the other. So we're getting smarter. We are working together. There's more coordination. This could turn into a giant hate fest as to, oh, well, this is what's wrong. This is what we're not doing. This is what's missing. The reality of it is, we want to work more with neighbors and engage various stakeholders. And a piece of that is public safety, because as you segment homelessness, there is mentally ill. There are folks that are literally one paycheck away from getting back into housing. There are the addicted, which is an illness. And then there is the lawless component. Those that prey on homeless, among others. Folks that work in and out of it day in and day out, like Clay Street Liquor. You know what I'm talking about. So the city in the last year and a half has committed an officer within our police department to work alongside community-oriented policing. Some have heard of the trend and how the department, the City of Salinas Police Department, has moved towards that. Like it or hate it, our chief has very much committed to officers that are trained in community-oriented policing. And it's definitely a culture change that I think I could go into great depth. It would take a long time. But a product of that is Officer Gabe Carby, as he has his own story to tell. Recently, 35 of us met in agribusiness. There's a special working group that are addressing homelessness along the Union Pacific right-of-way. And there's fantastic partnerships and solutions working humanely to address homelessness in that area. To the same tune, working with neighbors impacted, whether it's alongside Natividad Creek Park, whether it's off Lake Street or in Chinatown or right near the Neighborhood Services Center in the First United Methodist Church. So with that, teeing it up, I'm hoping not to put Gabe completely on the spot, but Gabe, your introduction to what you've observed of homelessness and the different types of homelessness, and then your expertise as a public safety officer to advise and offer your take, if that's possible. Gabe Carby, huh? How about that?
I wasn't expecting to speak, but I'm glad to be here. So about a year ago, the chief had gone to an international chief of police conference and came back with a program called the Homeless Outreach Team, the Hot Officer. And so I got selected through a process, and I've been working with the homeless for the last year. So in Salinas, we have some different homeless populations. We have a population in Chinatown that does not mix with the population at the First Methodist Church, that does not mix with the population on East Lake and Rossi, that doesn't mix with the population on the Union Pacific Railroad. And then there's another population in the Car Lake area. Those are the major encampment areas. There's a very interesting video, if you ever get a chance to watch it. It's on YouTube, called Seattle is Dying. And it will go a long way to explain how this perception of what homelessness is may change your mind. A lot of our politicians and talking heads would tell you that we need to build houses. That is a great long-term solution. However, all of you homeowners know how incredibly expensive and time-intensive it is to own a home and live in this town. It's very expensive, very time-intensive, and we have a population that is not really interested in taking on those burdens. We have a population that resists a lot of that. We have a lot of services. We have a ton. The state is dumping literally $500 million into homeless services, and we spend a lot of it just cleaning up after people. Police department as a whole doesn't have services to provide, so we rely on nonprofits to provide those services to people. It's a very difficult thing. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? People that are very resistant. We have a lot of populations like Chinatown that are very, very resistant to services. They like their life. They don't want to be messed with. And one thing I would ask you as the public is to put pressure on your nonprofits to make sure that they're spending the government's money wisely and how they're serving the homeless people, and making sure that we're using that to actually put people into housing. After Proposition 46 passed, in California, we decriminalized most minor crimes as well as drugs. So if you get caught with heroin today in the city of Salinas, the needle and heroin and all this bad stuff, you get a ticket. Cocaine, methamphetamine, you get a ticket and you go on your way. Before Prop 46 happened, we had a great lever. All those things were felonies. And it's not that the police department wants people to spend the rest of their lives in jail. However, it gave us a lever to say, you got caught with drugs, you go in front of a judge, and the judge tells you, okay, you can do a year in jail or 90 days of rehab. And maybe it doesn't work the first time, and maybe it doesn't work the fifth time, but at least we had some services being offered to people and people being put into recovery services. We no longer have that. We write somebody a ticket, they don't show up to court, and the process continues. So it's a very difficult thing. I'm sure you guys are aware of the Boise decision, a Ninth Circuit decision about homelessness, and it bars the police department or cities from enforcing laws for people sleeping on the street. There's been a recent review of that case by the Ninth Circuit that changed the term of public spaces, which used to include parks, and it now eliminates parks from public spaces as places that are legal for people to camp at night. However, people are legal to camp on the sidewalk, any sidewalk, and cannot be enforced by the police department or any cities. So it makes this job very difficult in trying to navigate through that. The Supreme Court was petitioned to review that case, and as of about 2 weeks ago, they will not hear that case, so we won't have any progress on getting that case changed in the near future. So it's been an interesting journey. If there's specific questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
We'll come back to that. We'll keep going, and appreciate your insights, Gabe. So we'll I know we've got some representatives from the church as well. So I do look forward to hearing more about the church's mission, how the church functions, leadership, and directive and programming. I spent a lot of time with Pastor, worked very closely with the church, and I just will say, and I think a lot, if not everyone would agree, that the faith community and churches play an invaluable role in providing social services, far greater than all government and nonprofits pulled together. And that goes to addiction, it goes to trauma, and a whole lot of other things. So the mission and the vision and the objectives, I think it'd be helpful to hear some of that. So why don't we go ahead and keep going and go from there.
I'm Mary Barr. I live on Palma in Edinburgh, whatever it means. And I'm a member of the church. I've been there 11 years, I believe. I am an alcoholic. I'm very proud to say I am an alcoholic. And we have our meetings at the church. We used to be over next to the transit center, the bus station, and we had major problems when we were over there. We've had a lot less problems since we've been to the church. Thank you for letting me say that. I'm part of the United Methodist Women. I'm on the executive council for them. But when I lived here, I needed the services of the church. And they were extremely helpful. Now I have a home. It wouldn't happen without the church. I get to teach now. That wouldn't happen without the church. I have first, second, and third grade. And then I also private tutor sixth grade. So none of that would have happened without both my 12-step program and the church. So I cooked for the church for 2 years. I was even a custodian. Then I got a job with a company out in Ryan Ranch, and then I've been able to do volunteer work. And none of that would have happened without the church. So I am very, very grateful for what they have provided. That's it.
Thank you, Mary. Keep going around the corner there.
My name is Bob Herman, and I'm kind of like the second in command, I guess you could say, at the First United Methodist Church. And I know that what we do is a lot of hard work, but at church, without getting into a big story, and I don't know how much of it I want to tell here anyway, but I've been homeless, and I'm an addict and an alcoholic, and if it wasn't for that church, I don't know where I'd be right now. I'd probably be dead, but they saved my life. And that's what we're trying to do with other people, is save lives. Not everybody, and I know a lot of you don't agree with it, but not everybody you can force them into recovery. But I try to work with people that I know are addicted, that I lived on the streets with, try to help them. I'll go the extra mile if I can to get them into recovery. And as you know, a lot of times it don't work. But 10 years ago, when I got to Salinas, I ended up homeless. And I am an ex-con, and I know we got a lot of it, and I try to work with people. But if it wasn't for the church, they would probably be in your community someplace other than that. We try to do what we can. We have a lot of resources that we try to help people. We just try to help them. And but anyway, that's about all I got.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Pastor Steve Lundeen, 4 years, 5?
Almost 5.
Almost 5. So yeah, the leadership man, the one employee, is that right?
Yeah.
Of the church. So yeah.
A couple of us.
Pastor Lundeen.
Okay, yeah. My name is Steve Lundeen. I am the pastor of the United Methodist Church. And I don't want to take up too much time. A couple of things I'd like to mention is we do feed every morning children and youth that are going to the schools that you've mentioned, and much more so during Christmas and summer vacations. We have teenagers and children and infants every day. Another thing I want to mention is one of the services that we offer is we have almost daily caseworker, sometimes two, from interim services who works with the mentally ill and helps navigate people to needed services and housing. We have been able to house, because of the interim caseworker, a number of highly needy mentally ill people in the last year. We also have a caseworker right now who works with whole people care, whole people care, and is helping some of our folks who have been homeless for a number of years into housing right now. We have a lot of miracle stories like Mary and Bob. I kind of wish we had had this meeting at our place today, because there are a lot of stereotypes and misconceptions, and I think you would all feel safe at our place. And I want to offer future meetings at our social hall, and also I would love to, one of my favorite things to do is to give tours around and show the many different services that we offer, and would love to do that with each and every one of you, or in groups, however. So that's all I have for right now, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Yeah, we'll loop around and we'll get to some Q&A, and I want to be mindful of everybody's time. Perhaps for those that can stick around, that would be interested, there could be a tour immediately following. We could walk over. I don't know what your timing's like, but let's keep moving.
I go to a family Christmas party
Okay.
in the Bay Area.
I got it. Well, glad you're here. Truly, yeah. So and yeah, that's true. We've done a number of tours with various stakeholders. So we'll keep going around. Pat.
I'm Pat Donahue. I'm frankly a lifelong Methodist. Moved to Salinas in 1975 and joined this Methodist church. And I've seen a transition of our services at the church from what you would call a typical church activity to something that has brought meaning to many of our members. We're trying to live our faith and to feed those who are starving, to clothe those who are naked. And our services include wardrobe. We have a clothes closet. We're trying to feed people. We're trying to get them mental health services. What touches me is the children and students I've seen go through our meal line, all the way from babies to Hartnell College students. 40% of our students here in Salinas are considered homeless. So when we talk about serving them lunch, that's the first meal of the day. We serve approximately 120 meals for lunch. And I am convinced, particularly in this weather, when it's cold and rainy, were we not serving those meals, many of our homeless would not sustain their lives. We're trying to keep them well enough to get the services. Otherwise, instead of peeing on your lawns, they may be dying on your lawns. That's a reality if you're homeless. Think about walking out this morning and how cold and frosty it was. So we hear your concerns. We're concerned about that as a leadership team as well. We struggle with some of the things that we do. But we also know that somebody needs to do something. We want to be part of the solution. We've been criticized for expanding our kitchen. Please know that we're not planning to expand our services. We're just trying to make the kitchen work better for the 120 that we serve lunch each day and the breakfast that we serve in the morning. There's no intention of expanding our services. If the city and the county can relocate you know, the community center focus of we're happy to cater the lunches somewhere else. That's the ultimate goal. But we need to come together in terms of the solutions. It's not easy, we recognize that, but please know we're as concerned about our neighbors as you are, as we are your neighbor.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, Rick?
Hi, my name is Rick Janicki. I've been in Salinas since 1968 in my neighborhood on Fairfax for going on about 27 years now. I applaud the church for what you're trying to do, but sometimes good intentions go awry. Unfortunately, among the good things you have done, an element has been brought into this neighborhood that is not healthy for the neighborhood, for the people that have to live there. People that are not.
That is the whole point, that's why we're here. Yep.
Yes, I agree.
And I'm not here to criticize what you do, but that idea has gone awry. And maybe thinking about, as you said, of moving the feeding of those folks that aren't children, maybe focusing on families at the church rather than the homeless population at large, and moving your ministry to an area that is more conducive to moving those folks away from the children and the homes and the lifestyle that a lot of these people had prior to. And I was in public service for 26 years as a law enforcement officer. I've dealt with homeless folks. I've met those that want to change. I've met a lot who didn't want to change. I've met a lot whose own families would not take them anymore because they would not conform to societal norms. The community-oriented policing program is a valuable program. And I would also say that for the neighbors, I have a lot of experience in something called crime prevention through environmental design, which is not expensive. You can do a lot of things. But the bottom line of what I'd like to say is thank you for what you're trying to do, but unfortunately, a good idea has gone awry, and you've brought an element into the neighborhood, the businesses, that is not healthy.
Well said.
Yeah,
Well
I
said.
told my daughter to come out at 7 in the morning, and when she walks the dog, and be stabbed.
She wanted to,
Well, let's keep going and then we'll focus on some conclusions. So, yeah.
My name is Rhonda Janicki, and I actually contacted Steve McShane a few weeks ago after the stabbing on the corner of Cayuga. We live only a mile away on Fairfax, and we don't see the homeless. But my daughter lives on Cayuga. And I visit her almost every day. I help babysit my grandson, so I feel like I live in the neighborhood too. And about a week before the stabbing, I was in my daughter's backyard with my little grandson, and her German Shepherd was barking, going crazy at her fence. And I thought, uh-oh, something is going on. So I got my daughter, she got on a chair and looked over, and there was a homeless man a foot away from us. And he decided he was going to camp in her little complex's yard. He had his blankets out, everything. And I was yelling at him, he needed to leave. And he was in our face saying, no, he wasn't going to leave until he did his drugs. And drank his alcohol. Yeah, drank his alcohol. And we were screaming at him, you need to go, you need to go. Finally, he got his baby stroller full of trash and was wobbling away. But in the meantime, he left his blankets, he left his garbage, we didn't know if there was needles in it. We called the police. They were able to show up about an hour and a half later and said that unfortunately, you know, they couldn't take the blankets. If we wanted to, we could throw them away because they were on her property. They did look in the bag for us for drugs. Thankfully, they didn't find any. But we did see the man walking back towards the church. And I have seen many homeless coming from the church, urinating in the bushes, pooping in the bushes. And only a week after this stabbing, it was a rainy day, I had driven down the street and I'd seen in the Casavan and Pope parking garage about 10 homeless men with their shopping carts. And I thought, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be an issue. And sure enough, there was a stabbing not too long after that. And I understand you're trying to feed them, but you don't have anywhere for them to sleep. So they have to find somewhere to sleep. And they're sitting in people's
Yeah, they're there
yards.
for the resources which they definitely need, but they're also now in nice neighborhoods.
Right, my
And-
brother-in-law is a chaplain for a homeless shelter in Oakland, and when I told him where the church was and how they're reading the homeless, and he couldn't believe it. He said, wait, in a neighborhood with children and families? He said, we would never do that.
Liquor store right down the street.
Yeah.
So I want
Three
to
doors
thank
down, you got
Steve
your liquor store.
for letting us have this meeting.
Sure.
Yes.
He kept in contact with me and saw how, scared I was for my daughter, and put this together.
My name is Sarah Felix, and I live off of Cayuga and Clay. I've experienced terror since especially about the last 2 years. I've seen a lot of the homeless population happening. I've had a few incidents where homeless were walking down my street writing down license plate numbers and VIN numbers, and I asked them what they were doing, and I got called a stupid B, and started screaming at me that they were going to be violent with me, so I had to call the police, and luckily the police were able to find the man. I've seen a lot, and I've also had to experience a lot. Not just that, but I've had people sleeping in my bushes. The day of the first stabbing, I walk every day at 9:30 in the morning, and I got my son ready, and I got to the door, and I felt weird. I thought to myself, I just don't feel right. I'm gonna wait. So I waited half an hour to go, and I'm walking down the street, and I call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, something happened. There's crime tape everywhere. And then I found out that woman was stabbed, an innocent woman who was pregnant, and I'm 31 weeks pregnant. And I had my friends calling me thinking I was the one that died because they knew about the situations that have been occurring. My husband has gone a lot because he's a CAL FIRE engineer. And so it's me and this guy and my dog. I know. And it's scary. And I'm scared. And then the day of the second stabbing, the night before, took my dog out to go potty. And I hear somebody panting in my bushes. And no, it was not an animal. It was a person. And they're heavy breathing. And I called my mom. I was like, I'm scared half to death. I have to get inside. Went running inside. And I go in my backyard to try and hear it. I don't hear it anymore. My mom comes racing down because she lives a mile away, like she said. And she goes, well, I didn't see much, but I saw a guy, he was dressed in, blue jeans and a zip-up, black hoodie. And then I see on the news that the man that's the homeless man that stabbed the guy in the parking garage down the street from me was wearing the exact same attire. Prior to that, I went to go take my dog out potty again. Yeah. And a homeless man chased me down the street for no reason, dressed in all black, and watched me walk into my condo, stood there and watched me. And I thought to myself, where am I living? Why do I have to live like this? This is so unfair. I can't even go for walks in my neighborhood anymore. My husband is scared half to death. And I understand doing good. I'm a faithful person. I believe in Christ and all of those things. But what about the community that is surrounding this situation? I mean, it's expensive to live here. I got one on the way and a beautiful boy. Yeah, huh? And we feel unsafe. And at the park, I can't even take him to the park down the street from my house because nothing but homeless people frequent it. And my son got up on one of the jungle gyms and he found drug paraphernalia and found a water bottle filled with leftover marijuana water. And he went to go drink it. And there was blood on the bark and broken glass everywhere. He can't ride his bike. I can't go for walks. I'm living in fear all the time. And it just seems so unfair. And then of course we want to up and move, but who the heck is going to want to move into our community? I mean, how am I supposed to move? We bought our condo 5 years ago, and that sounds like that's when all this began, and it's expanded to a point where I think it's outgrown your services. And I appreciate people who want to get help, you know, who want to go into AA and do all those things, but a majority of these people don't want it. They just want to be fed, and then they go off on their way, and they terrorize the people that surround them, and I just feel scared.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I got the meeting late.
Yes, you got here late. We're just doing
Hold on,
intros.
we still need to go this
Yeah,
way.
we'll go around and
Okay,
I'll come back.
start
That's
again.
okay. We have a couple more and then I want to make sure everybody's had a chance. So thank you for sharing your personal story there.
My name's Anthony Bozo, and I've owned a house on Cayuga Street since 1976. So living there over 43 years, it was a beautiful place when we first moved into it, and over the years, it's always been nice. We have good neighbors, nice friends. I have a daughter that's a registered nurse and works 12-hour shifts a day, and she's a single mom, so my wife and I take care of our 2-year-old grandson. And we don't even want to get out in the neighborhood anymore. It's a shame. What other people have mentioned. I mean, you know, in Chinatown and some of these encampments, yes, you expect to see drug paraphernalia and everything, but not on Cayuga Street or Capitol Street. And I don't know what it's going to take, and I don't want to take away from the church because what they're doing, okay, is a great thing. But in the same token, we have more homeless people than I have ever seen in my life. And are we supporting homelessness now? Those are some of the things. Another thing that's a very critical thing, and nothing's going to be solved here, but the mental health aspect. And it's a very dangerous cocktail to have mentally impaired people on drugs. And it's a loose canvas. You don't know what they're going to do. If they're going to stab somebody, you know, they're going to chase somebody. It's really a hard thing, and it's very frustrating, and we can't even use our neighborhood. And somebody mentioned the park. You know, that was a nice little park. A lot of kids played in it. And you do not see young kids in that park anymore. They might as well just take the park out.
Yep.
You know, it's not usable for the community, which it was maintained to be. So, you know, we have a lot of issues here. How we come to a conclusion, I don't know. I don't seem to see any more security in the area, such as a police car driving by maybe every hour, or I don't know. Maybe they don't police the downtown area because we don't have the problems that other areas do. But we've really had a problem here in the last month, and it's come to a head. And I don't know if you know, somebody that works for the city that gets mugged or something, maybe something will happen, or somebody else. But I mean, you know, we pay our taxes, we want to live in a nice community, and I would really like to see something done.
Our second to last maybe, and then we'll kind of do some wrap up and we'll have time for visiting afterwards. Thank you for being here, Council Member Tony Guerrera. Appreciate it.
Excuse me, can we all speak or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I didn't see that you come in, so we want to make sure everybody has a chance to
Yeah.
introduce themselves, but yes, sir. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
my name is Ralph Serrano, and I live at the corner of Cayuga and Clay for about 40 years across the street from Tony. We kind of are each other police type thing because we live across the street. But I will much rather, everybody already mentioned generally what's going on with the homeless. But I will reserve my opinion on this, but I'll give you some of my background. I started doing police work here in Salinas in 1979 as an undercover police, and I lived with the homeless for 3 months to discover some illegal activity. And before that, I spent 3 years as a criminal investigator in the Army and during the Vietnam War. So I have, where I grew up where there was organized crime, but at the age of 13, I chose to leave that area. And so I have extensive experience. I want to tell you something that is very important. Everybody mentioned homeless. I want to tell you that not all those people hanging around in our community are homeless. There are some drug dealers that dress like homeless.
Yeah.
And the police pass by and I don't see them stopping these guys. I would have been working, I recognize this guy, so I was stopping to see what they're doing. One of the things that, with all due respect to the church's intentions, is that we don't have accountability. We don't know who's here. We don't know. We don't know who they are. We don't know if they're from Iran or from another country. We just want to feed them. Well, that doesn't work. It doesn't work because the results are obvious. Sarah, the lady that just walked out, I warned her about 6 months ago. She was walking around with a baby, and I told him, don't do this anymore. And we met right outside Cayuga, and I guess she paid attention. So, and I had done other things. The police department, I worked here for 20 years. The police department selected me to handle the 10-block area. Many people remember that, like Barrera and other people have been here for a while. And I handled that. My job was there to straighten out 10 blocks on the east side. And I picked up another officer, Officer John Butts, and we dealt with that, and in no time, in 1 year, we solved the problem they had there. But mainly because we identified who lives there. Who are they? What do they do? What's their purpose there? And same thing with the church. Do they have a license? Do they have, what is their ultimate goal? Are they really accomplishing that? Who gets paid? Where's the money going? You got to follow the money. And unfortunately, the political environment that we are in today is part of the problem. Because whatever the politicians like to do. I'm into accountability. So any suggestions, I'd be glad to point those things out so we can straighten out this problem. I have my own experience on Cayuga and Clay, but I don't have most of the problems you guys have because I'm always on alert and I can identify people better than most people.
Thank you.
So with that.
Thank you. Quick response from
Let me just mention
PD.
something to Mr. Serrano because
Yes.
he understands all of this. The year that Mr. Serrano retired, there was 11 police officers assigned to patrol on day shift in the city of Salinas. Today, the city has swelled by 60, 70, 80,000 people, and we have 11 police officers on patrol during the day. There's 12 at night. So when you start to do the math of what we're talking about, and he's absolutely 100% correct, we used to have these 10-block areas where an officer could get invested in the community and understand who the players were in that 10-block area. Today, we have 11 people for 26 and a half square miles of the city of Salinas. These cops are running, they're driving right past the drug dealer because they're running from call to call to call to call.
Right.
Today, for example, today, there should be 11 police officers on patrol. However, only 4 of them are on their regular shift. 4 of them are being held over from midnights. They worked 10 hours last night from 10 p.m. till 8 a.m. this morning, and they're being held over till 12:30 because there's not enough bodies. And then there's 3 on overtime. There's not enough staffing to even begin to start what we're doing. So these are huge problems that we're talking about, that historically we haven't responded as a city to staffing the city so that we can, what you need is a cop sitting on the corner board. You go to San Jose and you go downtown, there's 13 cops standing there because they hired tons of cops. In most cities, we have about, so if you took Oakland, for instance, there's 400,000 people in the city of Oakland. They have about 850 police officers, so roughly 2 police officers for every 1,000. If you were in the city of Salinas, we have 0.72 officers for every 1,000. So less than half of the number of officers per capita. So a lot of this stuff has to do with volume as well.
Thank you for that point. I want to make sure everybody had a chance to speak before we come back.
My name is Adam Stafford,
Yeah, sure.
and I am a homeowner in Capitol. I'm also involved in AA. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I have firsthand probably a different dynamic than most people here, because I've been affected by what has happened with what's going on at the Methodist Church in our home. We had a home invasion at our home. We were assaulted. Our other neighbor was assaulted. I've had hypodermic needles. We've had people defecate on our street, on our doorways. We've had people break into cars and pass out and go to sleep. We live behind the stadium. They go walk up to the top of the stadium and they go and they shoot dope and they smoke crack. And a lot of people say, well, how do you know they come from the church? Because I see them when I'm leaving the meetings. Because I have that unique dynamic a lot of people don't. I saw that guy in an AA meeting. And I saw this person was walking my car. They said they were going to kick my ass and I'd give them cigarettes. And they defecated, like, in the floor, in the meeting where we go to. Talk about the accountability. You want to have accountability for all the great stuff you do, but you don't want to step up to help all the crappy stuff that's going on. You have to have accountability all around. All around. And also, like Mary. I know Mary. She's a miracle. I know her story. And I respect that. But you know what? We know this too. For all the people that try to get sober and want to get sober, there's 1 or 2% that even make it past 6 months. So the dynamic, if we're doing this thing, they don't want it. And you bring them in there, like you said, to eat. And I think that's rad and commendable. But where do they go after that? I don't remember at any point in time you and your parish or whatever you want to call it, come into our neighborhood, knocking on doors, and say, hey, we just got a $500,000 grant, which I know about, you guys got, plus an extra $100,000 for your kitchen. And you didn't come in and say, hey, guess what? We're going to be bringing this dynamic from Chinatown into your neighborhood.
Exactly.
We want to give you an awareness about it. No, you didn't. No one ever did. We just found out because people were crapping on our freaking floors and breaking into our stuff. My 2 daughters went to the library 8 years ago and called me crying because someone from the Methodist Church, which I also found out, did you know that they give P.O. boxes there to all these people for free?
Oh, awesome.
And then when I saw there was a murderer who killed that gal on Kern Street in Hotel 6, they found him up in the Bay Area, and when they had his license, you know what his license was? The church address, because he gives them P.O. boxes. Just giving P.O. boxes out to anybody. That's insane. That's insane. The accountability, like this gentleman said here, you don't have the full accountability. You have the accountability of all the great stuff you're doing, but you don't want to clean up, and you don't want to help us, help you, to help our environment. Where do you go when you leave the church at the end of the day?
Okay, where do you live?
Where do you live?
Half
Where do
a
you-
mile away.
Okay.
And
But
he
you get to
walks.
leave there.
But he walks.
I walk.
He walks.
Let's keep it going.
What I'm trying to say is that there's a huge dynamic that we're all kind of glossing over, and it's very, very, very toxic and bad.
Sure.
The point I was going to make is that my daughters were at the library, which no one else was. And there was a gentleman who was masturbating in a book area right there and was trying to peep to my daughters. And I got called and I came down there. And I was right in his face. I wanted to kill the guy. I told him, you fuck with my daughters, I will kill you, man.
Absolutely.
That was like 7, 8 years ago. And it's just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And we're all going, yeah, that's great. You feed people. That's how I feed people too. I give clothing to people too.
We're getting there, Adam. So
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. I just wanted to kind of
Let me finish with everybody
my
else.
wife.
and come
This is
back.
my wife, Kathy.
Okay.
Because when I introduce myself, I literally just like to introduce myself.
Yeah.
I have just 30
Okay.
seconds to share because people started sharing after that. and I
Sure.
did. And just that with regards to, you're saying like the neighborhood and reaching out, like I always feel like there's an assumption we're not doing that. And we do have a neighborhood watch and we are patrolling, but it's that accountability piece that, the police officer, it's like you have limited resources. It's not, this program is making it even more difficult for law enforcement, and it's not law enforcement's fault that they don't have enough people to address this problem that the church is not taking accountability for. The liquor store, I thank you guys for what you have done since you guys took over the liquor store.
Done a great job,
Not
yeah.
the chore boys up by
Absolutely.
front, you've cleaned up the outside, and you guys are kind of guilt by association. You guys were there, that store was there way before this program came in, and I appreciate the efforts that you guys have made. And you guys are showing accountability. You guys could have been there and said, hey, they're our customers. That's not our fault that they
No,
do when
they
they
did
come
a
or
great
don't
job.
go. No, you guys are showing accountability and trying to do what you can. The church
that's the frustration.
Sure.
When we have, my son opens his window to see what that sound is, and some drugged out crackhead jumps in the window, knocks his computer over, he runs out screaming.
Yeah.
She's blocking her door, this guy's trying to get it, and he's in our living room.
In our house.
Yeah, he went into, got
Then he
out
ran
of
into our neighbor's house.
like,
Then he ran to another house and beat up an old grandma.
so in regards to, I have emails going back and forth, including with you,
Yep, yep.
you're acknowledging it's a situation, it's horrible, and when we're talking about the solution, I think when the church is speaking, I hear them talking about, but we need to come to a solution, we need to come to a solution, and they're talking about the solution to feeding these people that need food. We also need a solution to what this is creating, because we are not anti-homeless, and I'm really angry that it always takes that angle when we try to speak up.
Right.
Well, you're against the homeless people, these people, I have no problem with that. We have always been very generous. My son is a toddler collected, without exaggerating, over 2,000 pounds of food to give to, he would serve at Dorothy's Kitchen.
Sure.
I mean, we've done all, we're not anti-homeless, but we count as well. Our families count, our children count. When we have fully loaded black tar heroin needles that our kids find in our driveway, and she comes home and calls me at work, saying, Mom, there's this guy who's acting really weird, he's by our front door, I can't get in the house, what do I do?
Sure.
And then it happens again a few days later, and then someone commented online to the church saying, hey, what can you do? What are you going to do? And the response from, I believe it was a pastor, well, you can come down and help us feed them. That's great. We will come and help feed them. What are you going to do to help us deal with the problem that you are also creating?
The drugs and the crime.
It's not just about what we can do to help your program be better.
So let's finish with some of the commentary. We've been here a while. I want to go here, and then I think Mike may have left, and we'll come back to Councilmember Ferreira, if that's all right. Okay, sure. So your name and your observations.
Yeah, my name is Mary Ellen. I'm a
Thank you,
homeowner on
Kelly.
Church Street. I live very close to where all of this has been going down. I've been at my home for 35 years. Been up and down over the years, but I've never ever seen it this bad. With the amount of people that are up and down the neighborhood, with children, and also I did have an episode too that somebody was on my front porch, sleeping there. It's like, so what do you, what are your rights as homeowners? And you got the YMCA right there. I mean, all these kids.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? I don't go down to the park anymore because of the situation there. My niece is 32. She used to go down there all the time. And she was little. We won't go down with children anymore. It's too scary. I feed this one man. He's homeless. Best worker I have ever had that did yard work for me. I would feed him, and that was it. I haven't seen him in a couple of weeks. But, so you try to help out. I've been a nurse at Memorial Hospital for 41 years. Believe me, I'm not, I know what goes on. But I can't live like this anymore in a neighborhood to be afraid. I walked down to see a grandchild play volleyball at the rec center. I have never been that afraid, ever. To walk down there and come up to you and kind of bump you. And, it's kind of like, next time I'm going to go, I'll take my dog with me. And I'm not going to be afraid to tell them to go get somebody. Tell you the truth. I don't want to hand myself a gun, but if it comes like that, we have no choice. The homeless guy that stabbed that person, didn't he have a gun? Is that the truth, that he had a gun?
Yeah.
Concealed weapon? Yeah.
And
Not registered.
Sure. Thank you, Mary Ellen. You want to?
I have a granddaughter who,
Yes.
What's your name?
Denise, and I live next door to Mary Ellen. I'm on Church Street, right where the stabbing happened, and right where this other killing happened. I have friends that work at the liquor store. I used to take my 4-year-old granddaughter over to a little park on Clay to play. I can't even take her there anymore. I'm afraid, and it's getting to the point where I've talked to a few other neighbors in our neighborhood, and they're all talking about arming themselves because they don't feel safe. So, and not all these homeless people are bad. So I've talked to quite a few. There's one that lives right in front of me in their vehicle. They're a young couple, very nice. But when it comes down to these people who have addictions and problems, and if they confront me, I'm going to arm myself. And what happens then when I have to shoot somebody? And that's what it's coming down to. it's getting to the point where we have to take care of our own places, our own property, and our own neighborhood, because the cops are they don't have enough police force. They need to hire more, but nobody wants to come in because of the issue. And I've talked to a few homeless people who said a lot of these homeless are from out of state, and they come here because of all the benefits they get. That's an issue.
Sure.
Why are they coming here? Why are we giving them money? Why are we giving them food stamps from a different city, a different state?
Thank you, Denise. To round this out, there's a few things that I'll just share as a council member and a policymaker that represents you in this hall. You know, as was said earlier, and I'll say again and again, it's not just one person. It's not just 6 people and a mayor. It takes an entire community. And when I responded to Rhonda and Rick, the goal of today's meeting wasn't so much to address the challenges associated with the church, their use, what they're permitted to do, some of the legal issues. I mean, that's a whole nother ball of wax. It was to address the public safety of the surrounding community. And so I definitely want to speak to that. You know, there's no doubt that here in Salinas, we bear the brunt of the largest homeless population on the Central Coast. There's no doubt that it's grown. There's censuses, there's studies, there's data that shows that we have grown our homeless population triple digits in the last 3 to 5 years. And so as we've dealt with that, it's been challenging. And on the humane side, there's efforts that we see at the service center, the county, not to mention the city, stepping up with the only homeless shelter at this point in time that's open to all, mostly families, in the county, right there off of Alice House Street. But working beyond that with nonprofits, there's a lot of nonprofits that work within 4 walls that do not show signs of what you see from the local First United Methodist Church. I mean, the Family Service Center, some may not even know it's there, right? Across the street from where Chapala's used to be, right by Clinton Street.
Right.
Yeah, that's Community Human Services. I sit on that board. And there are literally thousands that go through those doors and seek assistance, social work for the addicted, for those that are mentally ill and so forth. Valley Health Associates, also downtown. So there's a lot of bona fide 501c3s where their mission is to provide those social services. It's a bit challenging when a church is also providing those social services. How do we go about working with them so that they can do their mission and do it in a way that the neighborhood's not impacted? That's a larger conversation that again and again the pastor and his leadership have welcomed, and I bet that we'll see that. But as it relates to today's mission, how do we increase the safety of the neighborhoods surrounding the First United Methodist Church? And I would state that the goal for those that signed in is to get a neighborhood organization started. There are countless across the city, whether you're in the north or in the south or in the east, and some would shake their head and say, oh my gosh.
We have one.
So if there is one that exists, then I can tell you that from the city council perspective and the perspective of the city, it is not affiliated with the city of Salinas. So the city of Salinas has a neighborhood services department, and
How could it not be affiliated with Salinas? Yeah, we have police officers in our meetings talking with our
it's
neighbors.
the first news to me, and our coordinator had no identified.
We have the signs from the sign on the poles in our windows.
All the result is that we have more people calling when people are doing crappy stuff.
Yeah, we just have a connection going, hey, the guy's shooting dope is walking towards your house.
Right.
Okay, we'll look for him.
Sure. So to my knowledge, if there is one that was established, when it was established, and the neighborhood services department, there is not a neighborhood association on file with the city.
So maybe the city should be involved in trying to find out if these things already do exist.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm getting at. There needs, at a very minimum, there's a connection there and a communication effort and resources. I can't help but state that by being here today, you're agreeing to be more engaged. Some folks may have the app. Has anybody signed up for the Salinas Connect app? Show of hands, anybody here?
I wasn't going to help you when I'm terrified for my life because someone's trying to break into my room.
Understood. So for an act of violence, it's 911 and it's an emergency. But for
And because they're understaffed, they're not going to get there.
So for other sorts of challenges, what this does is it gives the city data. I'll get right there, yeah. This app gives us data with which to manage some of the challenges more. So, and I understand, very challenging, haven't seen the response. this is another tool that helps to make a case that things are definitely going awry. A lot of folks have gotten to the point where I'm not going to call because I'm not going to get a response. And I guess what I'm trying to encourage is you need to call. You need to, even if the response isn't for an hour, even if there's more critical issues, if we don't hear from you, if we don't know, we can't manage it. So the app is a very easy way that's quick. Last year, 12,000 reports. That's right. And so just that data shows us very, very easily where those hotspots are. And if you don't want to use the app, there's all these phone numbers on the back, including the non-emergency number for the city. I have my business cards, I'll pass those out. You know, by calling the non-emergency number, you get to a watch commander, and they're at least able to log whatever it is you're reporting. Again, what we don't know, we can't manage. So to that, I know there was a few follow-up comments. Let's start, where were we here? I'll pass these out. Please take one, put me in your phone, take photos. You can text me. I do want to call on Councilmember Herrera, but let's go to Trey. Do you want to comment?
Great,
We'll come back
great,
to Rick.
great.
Rick, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no problem. It's kind of a lot going on here. And I just want to say, before I say anything else, I don't want you guys to feel like we're attacking you. I commend what you're doing at this church, okay? There's got to be a solution to this problem. And the kindness that you show, unfortunately, has, you know, we've gone over this a bunch, right? How it's just brought a faction into our neighborhoods, which are not cheap to live in. That we, you know, as law-abiding citizens who want to raise our families and are community-minded, I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've had beautiful dinners and we have like beautiful hot food, and I'll go out, drive down the street, find someone who's hungry and give them food. I understand all that. But what it seems to me, one of our major problems in the city is a matter of resources, right? We've got 11 cops. We need more police, correct?
Yes.
But we don't have the resources. So I just want to make sure that I've got this correct. There's not enough money to hire more police officers, correct?
Well, let's have a debate about this, and I'd be interested to hear what Dave Carvey has to say. There's law enforcement and there's public safety. Public safety is not more officers. Public safety is you and I and the standards we hold. So that little poop, that little needle, that little urination, that mistreatment of another person that you witnessed is something you're willing to take time out of your day, report and say, that's not okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. But if you call
the
the police department and they can't get there in time because there's not enough police officers, is it not a fact that we need more cops?
Well, it may not be violent though, Rick. Like it might be, again, something very, very, very
GREG.
That's like 5 times.
It's GREG, great.
I don't want to say we could always, and we do need more officers, as would CSOs.
Okay, so
Yeah.
one of the things that has always perplexed me living in Salinas my entire life, this is not a broke community. I do not know what our biggest industry is worth yearly, annually, right? Produce industry, I'm guessing somewhere in the billions.
Oh, absolutely.
How is it in a community with billions in resources? We have streets that are like, we just got back from Costa Rica in July. You get better paved streets in Costa Rica.
Sure.
It's the middle of Central America.
We're too busy making signs for the rodeo.
But no, what I'm saying is, and I'm not like downing on anybody, but it seems like there's an awful lot of money in this community that doesn't go into this community.
Sure, it's a bigger question. I mean, our budget last year with the construction of our Public Safety Service Center and our library remodel on North Main, $220 million. Very, very sizable. And the residents of the community voted for Measure G and Measure E to pay for better and improved roads, to pay for more officers. We've hired 40 officers in the last 2 years.
That's awesome.
That are bilingual, bicultural, female. I mean, there's more diversity and ability to communicate in Spanish than we've ever seen.
Right.
But we're still short-staffed. And I could go on and on about the budget of the city and our challenges, the cost of healthcare, workman's compensation, insurance, not to mention benefits. I mean, it's a long list, Rick, but understand that this doesn't fall on deaf ears. And I guess if there's a few messages out there, it's we need to hear from you. And I realize that a lot of people are upset with the idea that, well, it's going to be an hour. It may be 2 hours. But if we don't hear from you, then there's no record of of it.
I understand the response time.
Yeah.
I have a difficult time understanding how the resources aren't there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a matter of tax base, apparently.
Well, okay, I'll go down this rabbit hole a little further. Rick, I'll get to you, and I know Wes wanted to say something. The city's budget is based on property taxes and sales tax. So every time somebody buys a car at the auto mall, there's money that comes into the
10%.
city's coffer. You know, property values go up, there's money that goes into the city's coffer. The rate at which those income streams are growing do not match the rate with which the cost of government is growing. Government is costing more. And a lot of that happens to deal with benefits, health, pension,
Yes.
insurance, you know, deferred maintenance, so on and so forth. And so it's challenging. You know, our biggest expense is people. I mean, that's 80% of our budget. And the biggest expense of our people, 2/3 of our budget, is public safety, fire and police. And as Gabe would testify, there's a lot going on in the city. And our city is based on 160,000 residents, but 1 in 4 of our residents are here undocumented.
Right,
So
there's
the
more
population's closer to 200,000. I mean, you know, you don't need excuses as much as how do we work towards solutions.
Yes.
And my best recommendation is to get a stronger connection with the city as part of a neighborhood association so that neighbors can be empowered and realize what legal rights they have, what best practices can be put in place. I've seen it all over the city because there has been more and more neighborhood groups that have put themselves together. And for those like Dave and others that are like, hey, I'll help to fund it, we do have grants available through the city that can work towards, again, greater public safety. So, you know, the outcome of this meeting is going to be notes, right? Everybody will get an email. But then there'll be a call to action, and this is where, you know, Rick raised his hand, I can't wait to hear from him, but, you know, as Rick and Rhonda and I have talked and gone back and forth, some folks will need to step up. And, you know, the church has offered, you know, a place to meet, we can meet in the city, but I think the one other takeaway is that the church was willing to work closer with the city on how they can fulfill their mission without as great an expense to the surrounding community. Because
that's what we
it's like, we want to help.
You were
but,
talking
know,
about grants, that's what I asked you a question.
Sure.
You said there's grants, and the church got a grant, $500,000 to help with the home situation. So is that in a sense, and I'm just asking because I don't know, that the city council and the city itself was like, we don't want to get our hands dirty, we don't want to screw with this, here you go, there's your thing.
Not necessarily, and again, this is a question people may have interest in, and it's worth explaining. There's a lot of different grants out there. So the grants that I'm speaking about are neighborhood grants.
But the point
with specific attention to the grant that they got, anybody that is a bona fide 501c3, 501c7, what is your tax status? Is it 501c7? C4? So they are eligible to apply for, in this case, it was a federal grant that addresses specific, very, very specific, and then those are all ranked using math, really. I mean, you know, greatest good for the dollars you spent, and they qualify.
Did you do that because the city wasn't doing anything, or was it suggested to you to do that because it would help the city deal with the homeless and the things of that nature?
It was just suggested as something that was offered, I think, right? You know, they're able to apply, and they're not expanding as much as they're remodeling. I mean, you know.
We had worn out our kitchen over the last 10 years doing daily meals, and we were looking for some sources for fixing our kitchen up.
$500,000
Okay.
is a lot.
Okay, I want to make sure we bring this to some closure. I saw Wes, did you want to say something?
Sure. Let's make sure I'm even close
So
to
just as a background, Wes is a former commissioner with the city. He's active in the homeless community.
There you go.
You know, is it safe to say you're looking for solutions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. You don't know what he's going to say, so I'm just like, okay.
Let's see if I can stay on the shot here. So my name is Wes White. I'm a community advocate enthusiast, co-president of Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union. So I'm very much on the side of people and rights, basically. My suggestion, and I've been going through, like the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers is an entity for both this county and San Benito County. The city actually implemented an ordinance saying that they would coordinate with that coalition. They never do. There's all these people that are signed up on services to go nowhere, just to a dead-end brick wall that goes, well, you know, nowhere. But yet somebody's getting paid for that. What I'm looking at is the people who are signed up for services, they should be passed over for sweeps. They should be allowed to be somewhere on public space. This goes back to Martin versus Boise, anywhere on public space. There was an ordinance passed that says nobody's allowed to be in the parks that happened for the rodeo. And that's counterintuitive to what the Supreme Court has already said. If we want to eliminate a lot of things, I think identifying people as harmless, letting them be in a location, and, you know, I mean, it's already affordable housing. We did an RV ban. We're destroying affordable housing left and right and left. You know, you take the tents away, put it in a dumpster, $12 million, like whatever number we want to play with right now, goes to sweeps. So the police, the landscapers, and the dump all make money off of this, and yet there is no solution. The solution is get out of town. That's not a solution. So if we have already identified people, and actually quite a bit of people have been already signed up on these cars because they try to get in Moongate, they try to get, you know, anywhere, everywhere. They will follow whatever rule you give them, even if it's a bad one. So people are really willing to work with this, and if we identify people, we can separate who's lawless as to who's harmless.
Thank you, Wes.
Well said.
Okay, I do want to bring this around. Rick had his hand up first, so Rick, and then Steve, and then we'll bring it to closure. Rick?
We've kind of gone in different directions, and one of the questions that always comes up is, when do we know is a problem? When is the problem solved? When will we say we have completed this and we no longer have to worry about it? And I'm referring just to the issue we're directly talking about now, not the homeless issue in general, and other parts of town, our part of town.
The crime in our neighborhood.
Safety.
Association.
This.
Having an association, that's all well and good. But my idea would be, through the city, with whoever members want to be involved, to have a focus group that would meet with the church, identify when is it, how can we fix this now? Not in 2 weeks, not in 5 weeks, not in 5 years, but be able to say, we want to have a solution by the end of 3 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever is set. And then try to figure out a solution so that it gets done and not bogged down in minutia as you go. To identify the problem, the problem I'm seeing right now is lawlessness based upon homelessness that's in our community right now. And when I say community, I mean the neighborhood that we're talking about. And to do that, that'll hopefully, with your help, Steve, that focus group can be created with a city representative, with a number of representatives from the community in the immediate area to sit down with the church and say, this is what we want to accomplish. We want to accomplish it by this point. How do we do that? And then make it happen.
Yeah. And so dovetailing on that, Rick,
Well said.
we've obviously had a lot of ongoing conversations here. We've talked about homeless rights and the Supreme Court not taking up this important case, and we've talked about just very general homeless issues. We've also talked about the use of the church's mission, and whether they're accountable and proactive. You know, those two things are important. But to Rick's point, to each and every one of the working families that have to be at work, even later today, if not on Monday, and are busy with their ongoing lives, we need immediate results, and we need to be talking about neighborhood public safety. And so taking it back to that was why this meeting originally started. And I mentioned a neighborhood watch, a neighborhood association, which sounds like was already started or began with a police presence and so forth. I can just speak to my own neighborhood. The way we were successful was we met once a month. We actually got data from the police department that showed exactly how many crimes were committed. Those were our stats. And so each month we were monitoring, you know, how many incidents, calls for service through this app. They're very much available. You know, please take and download and use. Like, we can provide you with data as to how many app requests were. What were the nature of those apps? So you combine that with police activity, now all of a sudden you get a clearer picture based on data, not just stories about, what may have occurred. Now,
What about the
not
data
saying-
though, what about the data of the home invasions and
Yeah.
the breaking entries? You can go back and see that.
You better believe that. So this group gets
That
together
data
and
exists
says-
already.
It does, and so what I'm saying is,
Crimereports.com.
well, we can run reports, and many people have access online to FBI reporting data anyway. So again, bringing this around full circle. Everybody that attended today and signed in on our yellow pad of paper. Do you have it back, Dave? I don't know where it ended up.
I didn't sign up. I didn't sign
Where
up.
did that pad go? Does somebody have the little pad of paper?
Right there.
It's right
Okay,
here.
so make sure you sign in. If you
Did you,
signed in, you will get the notes from today. I think I'm on page 9. I'll do my best. And then we'll summarize to, okay, there'll be another meeting. And somebody will have to say, okay, I'm willing to take a leadership role. And there's a lot of things a lot of directions this could go. I'm sure engaging the church.
Is this a big enough issue that this will be brought to the city council?
Here, I'll pass these out as well. These are just numbers for the city. So, okay, so the question was, is this a big enough issue that it will be brought to the city? Yeah, at the city council, I will report out, and Tony will be my witness, that we had this visit. And these notes, I can pass on to the mayor and to the city council. I can tell you that this is big enough that the mayor is definitely working on this. He's in communication with the church, as am I, as to their willingness to, say, provide services off-site, or to look at greater accountability in a way that they can fulfill their mission without there being as great an expense to the neighborhood. So the quick answer to that is yes. Wow, we're going on 2 hours. Maybe the last thing, and then I know, Steve, you wanted to say something. Steve, and then Steve.
Yeah, I just think it's important in any future conversations that other groups that provide services in the neighborhood are a part of that also, like the warming shelter.
Well, the Family Service Center.
The Family Service Center.
That's huge. People don't even know about it.
I am a little bit defensive of getting all of the fingers being pointed at the Methodist Church when we've got methadone clinics,
We do.
we're.
Where are they? They right in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, they are. Yes.
Community center?
Yep. So very much, and that's a great point. Again, neighborhood group gets
Thanks
together.
for
The next
bringing that
meeting is
up.
going to be about personal safety.
Thank
It's
you
going to
for
be
bringing
about
that
what can we do, reporting, those sorts of things. And then as the group gets more mature, that's where we can target and look to addressing those. Steve, you had something?
Yeah, I suggested to the supervisors, I don't know how many times, that as far as the homes are concerned, at least check out Fort Ord. If nothing else, have a place where they can have a tent or park their vans, whatever, and have access to bathroom and kitchen facilities. And the folks that don't have a vehicle, give them access to laptops. I guess the barracks are full of asbestos, maybe that's better than that, I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that homelessness is a regional challenge, Steve, and to that point, the city recognizes that. We're doing plenty. We have Councilmember Tony Barrera here. Councilmember Barrera has been a leader in homelessness for as long as I've been alive, practically. I mean, a long time. I think of your time working with the Franciscan Workers, Dorothy's Place, and some of those others. We've worked a lot together on growing neighborhood empowerment. Anything you'd like to say as a council member for the city of Salinas?
Well, thank you for everybody being here. I think besides Pastor Steve feeling defenseless, we have a dead young woman, a pregnant woman, she's gone. She was on her way to work, that's real. We have a young woman here that's terrified in her own home. That's real. You know, meetings are fantastic, and I know we're all after solutions, and I thank you for being here because it's serious. But to not be able to go to a neighborhood park, that is serious. Where if you offer food or drink or whatever, people that need that, they're going to be attracted. They're going to go there, regardless whether it's in Fort Ord, the Methodist Church. People are going to gravitate to wherever you're offering coffee or something to eat. But you're not going to govern what's here. I'm going to make that decision myself. Mental illness, just this gentleman, we don't know what's going into people's minds. And there's a good percentage, and I want to thank Councilmember Steve for putting this together. But a lot of times he and I, we disagree, which is great. He's a good human being. Maybe I'm the bad person. But I don't believe in handouts. I don't. I believe, I've even gone to the Monterey County Food Bank. Instead of giving a good bag of food, can we give the family a dignity, maybe go pick up a little bit of trash? And they said, we can't do that. That's against the law. Well, as long as you're giving people without, well, yeah, I'm gonna go. You know, I mean, you can talk and talk and talk, whether we have enough cops or not. You know what, we got you can call a cop and they're super busy. No matter how many cops we get, they're all gonna be super busy. Cops are expensive. They are. Whether you can judge us as your political public servants, because we are responsible for these issues. But at the same time, I think with Councilmember McShane bringing these things together, but the reality is this thing's got to get better. It's getting worse. Yeah. But you know what? What's happening once a month, professional people, I think there's 40 providers, they get together and ask, what do we talk about? Mental illness is a big deal. Drug addicts, whether they're your family members or not, as long as they keep doing this, blaming everything and everybody, they got to start doing this.
Sure.
Yeah. But as long as it's this, we're going to continue having this problem. There's no reason why a family should be afraid in their own home. There's no reason for that. The best thing, Councilmember McShane, that has worked, and I've been here a little bit longer, is what this gentleman said. The 10 block, but it went up on the shelf.
Sure.
You know, there's people that get paid, cops get paid awesome money, and they're needed. But these people deserve peace in their community. But we expect them to resolve our problems. They're calling us, but we're not responding, and our responses were short-staffed. We can't get there on time. So we all got our reasons why we can't do certain things. But I think if we go back to the 10 block, sincerely,
yeah,
it's something into what you do in our communities.
sure.
People get involved, but when people call, there's a response.
Yes.
You know, because people can't be calling and not have a response. Data is fantastic.
Yep.
But if we're just going to have data and people getting killed, something's not right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I understand. You know, I got it. We're pushing
I just want to say something. I think I need to say this. I was not really wanting to get involved in this thing, even though I live in the middle of these things, because generally I'm too direct and I don't sit right with politicians. So I was asking by my friend Tony to come here, and as long as there's few people here that are willing to be part of the solution, I have a solution within days that we can ease the problem that we have in that community, in that area. And that's, of course, with the church cooperation, we should get somewhere within days. And I'm busy with the things that I do, but I heard the stories, and so I got my number here.
I got it, Ralph. If you have
You
email,
should do that. I don't want to give my email, you can call me there and we can talk about it.
I can mail it. What's your address?
428 Cayuga, right there, corner of Cayuga.
All right, that's right. I can mail the notes.
So let's take some action. That's what
Absolutely. Hey, you've got, I'm willing to do anything. You've got an idea, I'm willing to do anything to solve this problem.
We're here.
That's great. Okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
You say about we don't have enough police officers. Am I wrong, or wasn't there a pay cut not too long ago?
Yes, there was. There was a pay cut.
It is.
Back to the,
That's how you want it. It was a net reduction in pay. Again, we hired officers. No. So to Gabe's point, we have the same amount of officers that we had when Gabe started, so to speak. At the same time.
Before.
Yeah, well, maybe before. At the same time.
I was just wondering, maybe that's why they're leaving.
And how about the buildings that are empty? Can't we use those for the homeless to go there? Like the building that's right there?
Well, why don't I,
California.
If anybody needs to leave, I don't want to keep this longer than 2 hours. I'm happy to answer some additional questions. But again, everybody that signed in will get notes from today, and the call to action will be another visit following this. And that'll be getting the effort aligned with the city or closer with the city to address what's going on. Yep.
I know, like that building that's just
Thank you for coming. So, yeah.